Ready to start? All right. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Member Wilson.
Here.
Member Rashadat. Here. Member Palmer.
Here.
Member Eisen.
Here.
Member Fulslier. I'm so sorry.
Fuchelet here.
Fuchelet. And Member Mark Billings is here.
And so is Member Riker.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I have the wrong
That's
cheat
okay.
sheet. I apologize profusely. Member Riker.
All right. We have quorum, and Mark got here just in time.
My apologies.
No problem. All right. So the first thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from May the 6th. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Yes.
Will you call for the vote? Member Billings.
Yes.
Member Fusilier. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
We'll work on it later. Member Eisen.
Yes.
Member Palmer.
Yes.
Member Rashadat.
Yes.
Member Wilson.
Yes.
And Member Riker, yes.
Member Riker. Member Riker. I'm fixing it right now. I'm so sorry.
No worries, no worries.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in before we move further. At the last city commission meeting that was continued to the 15th, the direction was given by the commission to appoint a chair and vice chair to this committee. So they talked about the pros and cons, but they would like to see that in this board.
If that's the case, I'd like to make a motion to approve Mark Billings for our chair until we get a vice chair.
I'll second it.
All right, we'll call for the vote. Member Wilson.
Yes.
Member Riker.
Yes.
Member Rashadat.
Yes.
Member Palmer.
Yes.
Member Eisen.
Yes.
Member Fulzier.
Yes.
Member Billings.
Abstain.
Actually, since we're low on people, you're here, you're present, we need you to vote. You have to overshare something.
It's okay, Mark. Go ahead.
You can say that. You can say that.
Yes.
The other thing I wanted to bring up is there's been some concerns raised to me regarding communications that are occurring during the meeting on the dais. Just remember that any communications, if you're making your recommendation based on information provided, even if you're not doing that, those are public records, and so they need to be sent to the clerk. And if there's any commission discussion further regarding communications during the meeting, I would, leave it up to you all if you want to set a policy. If not, we can move on.
Do we need to appoint a vice chair per your direction?
You're right, I skipped right over that. Vice chair.
I recommend Mike Eisen.
I'll second it.
Calling for the vote. Member Billings.
Yes.
Member Fulzier.
Yes.
Member Eisen.
Abstain.
I need you to vote.
Yes.
Member Palmer.
Yes.
Member Rashadat.
Yes.
Member Wilson.
Yes.
And Member Riker, yes.
And
as
Member
well.
Riker.
Oh, are you done? That was all? Yeah. Okay. But I'm not in charge anymore. They have a chair.
So if I may make a point of order.
Okay.
Going forward, my ask will be that our facilitator will lead the discussion We'll call a vote and have a motion. If it's approved and seconded, we'll have discussion. Each member will be heard twice, and we'll call the vote and move forward. So appreciate if everyone could comply with that, and I'll yield to our facilitator. Thank you.
All righty, thank you. All right, so the first item on the agenda tonight is we're going to start with some of the proposed charter revisions that we have not tackled yet. And I don't know, the first one on here for tonight is the proposed charter amendment as it related to section 2.02. I'm trying to, let me look at what that one was. That was the section, let me pull it up here so I don't misquote it. Composition and term of office. I don't know why that is on here. We voted on that. You approved a 4-year mayoral term back on 4/15. The vote was 8-1. I don't know how this appeared on the agenda, so I don't know if one of you all asked for it to be brought back. So maybe that was just a repeat.
I
that we
believe this
somehow-
question's been asked and answered, and suggest we move on,
Okay,
please.
thank you. All right. The next section is discussion of the commission salaries. Well, actually, maybe I should probably ask, does anybody want to bring, well, I don't know. Discussion of the commission salaries. There was a discussion at the last meeting about the salaries. We had brought some information forward. We did not finish that discussion.
We voted on it.
Chairman, I would like to bring that discussion forward. I was one of the votes for the approval of it, so I think it's okay if I bring that again. And I want to do that because I was just doing some more research on it. It kind of, I think it might tie the commission's hands to put that into the charter so specifically, and that they can't make any changes for 10 years. And I know that it's in the charter for the county, and the county set their charter at 60% and 50% of what the state allows. They actually tied their hands because the other counties in the state of Florida, as I've been told by a prior county council person, get 100%. So now the county council's hands are tied in that they can't adjust their salary. And I was concerned that by putting such a specific verbiage in our charter that it would tie the commission's hands. So I went a little farther, and I did some research with regard to the other cities. I don't know what they pay. I know that we had asked to find out what other cities pay, but we don't have that information. But I did look for like in the other cities, where is that compensation set? Is it set in the ordinance, or is it set in the charter? For Daytona Beach, it's set in the ordinance, and the reimbursement for expenses and duties are paid. In DeLand, it's set by ordinance with no mention of reimbursement for expenses. In DeBary, the compensation was set as of 2021. The mayor is paid $800 a month and the commissioner $650 a month, and increases and decreases are set by ordinance. So it did have an amount in the charter, but they allowed for movement by adopting an ordinance and reimbursement for expenses. Orange City, compensation was set by ordinance with reimbursement for expenses. Port Orange, again, set by ordinance, and it sets the salary tied to the CPI. Deltona, the compensation is tied to the average annual salary of mayor and commissioners in the cities within Volusia County, and shall not include benefits except for medical benefits under the city's group health plan, which premium costs shall be fully paid by members of the commission who elect coverage. And in the information we received, we have some commissioners that are getting a higher compensation in their health care reimbursement than they're getting in their pay. So there's there's a value for serving on commission in terms of getting your health care, and a lot of people work to get their health care. Lake Helen, the compensation was set as of the date of the latest charter, but it's adjusted by resolution with reimbursement for expenses. I chose those cities because and I don't know who it was that instructed staff to go find out what the other cities are paying mayor and commission. They said, and don't do Edgewater or Oak Hill, because they wanted some larger cities. So that's why I focused on those larger cities. It was said at the last meeting that we needed to pay a reasonable salary, that somebody would be able to live on that salary, and therefore we could attract talent. First of all, I think that was kind of not a very nice thing to say about the people that currently have served, because I think we have a lot of talented people, and they were willing to serve at $14,000 back when. And I think that if somebody is a very talented person in their business and they're making 50, 60, 70,000, they're not going to come and work for the city on commission to make even 50 if they're making 75. They will just add that to their income, and they will be very happy with what they're earning. So that was kind of what I was thinking about to answer some of the things that people said last time. Also, if you consider Volusia County, they have 590,357 people, and New Smyrna has 30,000. And if you combine Oak Hill, New Smyrna, and Edgewater, you're maybe around 60, maybe 70, I don't know. So to say that you're going to set it at 75% of what the county council gets paid, I think it doesn't make sense in my mind, because the population and the job is so much bigger for county council than it is for our city. And I just think, honestly, I think it takes the commission's going to have to vote on this anyway, so it's going to come up when they discuss whatever we're choosing to do for them in the charter. I just really feel like this is an ordinance issue. I don't want to tie their hands. If there's some reason that they feel that they need to increase their salary or decrease their salary, they can't. They're just stuck. And so that's kind of where I am with all of this. I don't know how everyone else feels. Or
Ms. Riker, thank you for that detailed overview. I appreciate it. Would you entertain making a motion of what you do recommend so we can second it and into a period of discussion so everyone has an opportunity to share his or her opinion?
If we first vote on the motion for reconsideration, and then if that passes, then we'll go with your motion.
so there's a motion for reconsideration, and we would need a second, if anyone wants to second to go forward.
Do you have a second?
Need a second.
Second,
Second.
for discussion.
So we have a motion and a second for discussion. Any comments?
Yeah, I think we started down this road because we were trying to take the commissioners out of the position of voting for their own ways. What Commissioner Riker points out is a valid opposition to that because of the tying the hands for so many years. So I'm not sure what the resolution is, because I'd like to still try to take it out of their hands. And I'm not sure if the resolution is whether it's 75% or 60% or something. I think it's just a question of process as to which process we want to use. Taking it out of their hands or leaving some flexibility, and there's arguments for both sides.
Further discussion?
I really support the putting it in the charter for that same reason. It takes it out of the hands, and it will not exceed a certain percentage above the Volusia County Commission and Mayor, which is what that's established from. But Judy, I understand what you're saying, but I still feel strongly that that if we don't do it now, it won't happen again for 10 more years, and we're going to be in worse position than we are right now.
You're setting their salaries. That's what you're doing with it.
A
You're not
percent-
allowing them to set their salaries.
Percentage of the Volusia County, yes.
Yes, we're setting their salaries, and I just don't know if that's our role, as everything else in the charter is very broad, and when you get specific and set the salary, just think I don't know about taking it out of their hands.
You know, although it is going to be onerous on them to vote on this themselves, I have to agree that it seems to be something that's a little bit too detailed to include in the city charter.
I'm going to ask a question, and I'm not sure if it's of Ms. Evans or our attorney, but could someone read the motion that we are reconsidering so we fully understand what it is we're discussing?
So it's a motion to reconsider the issue that was voted on regarding salary. And so a second motion hasn't been made yet as to like what the proposed alternative might be.
So did we second the motion to reconsider?
We have a motion and a second for
Okay, I second.
reconsideration. We're in discussion. I was unclear as to what we were reconsidering with this discussion. So that's reconsidering.
I think you need, I don't know, maybe Ms. Riker wants to do it, but you need a motion, I think is what the attorney is saying. You need a motion on the floor.
We
for
have
what
to
she-
vote on the
first, yeah.
reconsideration, and then we can entertain a motion for an alternative. So with that said, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the reconsideration?
Mark, if you look at the chart that was provided by the city clerk's office under the status, it tells you what the previous motion was. I'm kind of torn apart between putting it in the charter and also in the ordinance. Given the fact that the commission has to vote for themselves, I think it's difficult for them. I think having it in the charter, I think it gives the people the chance to vote on the issue. And I think that's what we were trying to do. I think the salary for the commission right now, I don't think it justifies of what they are doing today. Maybe this was 20, 30 years ago, but today I don't think it's really valid in terms of the compensation. And I think when the comment was made that I think it attracts qualified candidates, doesn't mean that the candidates we have today, they're not qualified or the previous ones. I think it gives a chance for somebody who is qualified to give them some incentives. Because the amount of hours that they're putting into the job, it's really above and beyond of what it used to be. And I think it needs to be in the charter, to be honest with you. I think it takes it out of the commission hand, it gives it to the people of New Smyrna Beach to vote on the issue.
Any further discussion on the reconsideration motion? Hearing none?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because if it's in the ordinance, then the city commission gets to vote, and they are the only body that gets to vote with regard to what they're going to be paid. But if you put it in the city charter, the citizens can slap it down, and then it's not in the ordinance, and then how do they get an increase?
Well, if we don't change it from what it is now, and let's go back, let me back up. If we put a change in and it goes to a vote and they vote it down, then I would think what's in there now is retained. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so if it does get voted down, then you revert back to the existing language.
So it would stay in the charter. I mean, it would stay in the ordinance.
Correct.
Okay.
But we still have the motion for reconsideration. We need to vote that
So I'm going to
up or
call the
down.
vote and ask that I'm called last, please.
Okay. Okay, this is a vote on the reconsideration of the discussion. Member Wilson,
Yes?
Member Washidat,
Yes.
Member Riker,
Yes.
Member Palmer,
Yes.
Member Eason,
Yes.
Member Fusilier,
Yes.
Member Billings.
Yes. So the motion carries. Now entertain a motion for an alternative or to include it in the charter with specifics.
I'm making a motion to include it in the charter with some specifics.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Are you going back to the same specifics that you had before?
Yes.
It seems that this situation must have arisen somewhere before. I would love to see how this has been handled in other places, because it doesn't seem as if it's a situation that would be, that happened for the first time ever. It has to have happened before somewhere else, because it's a pretty simple thing. I mean, you have this constitution, basically, that we're looking at here, this charter, and we're talking about someone's salary. That's objectively seems as if certainly shouldn't be in this type of document. But then at the same time, if the commissioners vote for this, vote for a salary change, which is difficult for them to do, it probably will be voted down. So there has to be some other way for this to be handled. Does anybody else have any other ideas about how we can handle this situation? I'm sorry, I have not done the research myself, but it seems like there must be some other way to handle this.
That's exactly the conundrum that I was facing when, you know, I hear what Commissioner Reicher's saying, and I hear the other arguments on it, but I don't know where the middle is. I don't know what the solution is.
Exactly, I don't either.
And the 75%, that's arbitrary. Why not 60? Why not 65? Why not 50? I mean, where does that come from? And if we're going to set salary, we have no backdrop to set it against, except county council.
If I may add a perspective, we'll decide on this motion to include it or not to include it in the charter. Then we'll entertain a motion as to specifics to be the language in that, whether it's 60, stays at 50, 75. But the motion, as I understand it right now, is to a yes or no to include this as part of the charter.
Well, it was with specifics.
Yes.
And you said the specifics were the same as last time, which is 75%. So the motion isn't broken up into two things, as I heard it. I maybe heard it wrong.
No, you heard it right, and I think it's the discussions. I mean, if the 75%, I think at the time when this was discussed and the 75% was mentioned, I think it was based on the discussions we had on the dais that we felt the 75% was a reasonable number. But, I mean, if the committee wants to have 60%, 55%, I mean, that would be discussed now, and I'll be revising my motion.
Could I ask the motion maker, would you be amenable to amending the motion to just be yes or no in the charter, and then we could move to a dollar amount?
I'll do that. Okay, I'll amend my motion to make a motion to include this in the charter.
And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second.
When you
Okay.
say to include this, meaning
To include the
specific-
salary adjustments, the
Salary
one with the
adjustments.
discussion today.
So I'm going to provide my understanding of what we are discussing. Right now, we're limiting our discussion to if you're in favor or you're not in favor of including this language in the charter. Once we call the vote on this, if it passes, then we'll have a motion for specifics. If it fails, we move on. So right now, any discussion? Hearing none, call roll.
Member Palmer,
No?
Member Rashadat,
Yes.
Member Riker,
No.
Member Palmer, did I already say that? I'm sorry. Member Wilson,
Yes.
Member Eason,
Yes.
Member Fulzier.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Member Billings, yes.
Member Billings, oh my goodness.
So the motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to enter into specific language as to the parameters around the compensation to be added to the charter with the previous agreement.
Question, is the current set at 50%? For some reason, I'm thinking that's what it was of the Volusia County.
The mayor gets 50% of Volusia County, and then the commissioners get 75% of that 50%.
How much would that be?
Need a calculator.
Did you get the numbers?
37 and a half, I think.
They're making 37 and a
I
half?
think,
I've got the numbers somewhere. See if I can find it.
Late in the day to do math, ever see everyone's got their
So-
smartphones out?
Half of 37.5 is 18,750. And then 75% of that is 14,062.50. So it would equal, if the 36.5 is a correct number, the mayor gets $18,750. The remaining commissioners get $14,062.50.
But that's less than they're earning now.
Yeah, that's,
Well, the mayor gets 27,189 and the commission gets 2392, which was a 19% increase over the prior year.
So what's the starting number?
I think that's what I
Somebody,
need to know.
we don't know. Okay.
it's on the sheet of paper. See if I can find it.
You had the number, didn't you, Judy?
I don't know that I had the,
Does the Volusia chair get a
I've got it.
different rate than the council
Kurt-
members?
does the chair
Does the
Current
Volusia
salary for the
chair-
mayor is $28,081. The current salary of commission is $21,060.
What was the first number?
$28,081.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to make it a function of the county commission with the specifics ironed out during discussion, so we can actually enter into discussion. We don't have a motion in a second.
Say that again?
I'll entertain a motion that the specifics will be ironed out as a function of the county commission salary, whether it lands at 50, 60, 75, we'll do that in discussion and then vote on it, but we don't have a motion and we're talking out of order. We need to have a motion and a second in order to have this dialogue.
You mean the county council, that's what I, when he said the
Correct.
commission, okay.
I
Correct.
think you did have a motion out there.
If there's a motion to calculate a percentage based on the current Volusia County mayor and commissioner, then I'd second that motion.
Mr. Rajah, did you enter the motion to do? I didn't hear a motion.
No, I did not hear, I didn't.
We have a second without a motion. We need a motion for that. So, Mr. Ice, would you make the motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to amend the current mayor and city commission as a percentage of the Volusia County mayor and commission.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion now, and in this, my ask would be that we have discussion before we call the vote as to what the percentage would be as a comparative. Currently, it's 50%. Prior meetings, we were discussing anywhere from 60 to 75. From there, the multiple, as I understand it, would remain the same, with the city commissioners getting 75% of what the mayor gets. The variable is what the mayor lands on. So open it for discussion.
So the county chair, if you work the numbers backwards, the county chair gets paid $56,162. Because currently our mayor is at 50% of that and he's receiving $28,081, so that works out.
That's correct.
So if you want to do, if it was 75, you would be taking that salary up to $42,121. Someone else can figure the commission salary. Go for it.
Which would be 75% of the mayor?
Yeah,
I
75%
don't
of the
know.
42,000.
42,000, right?
31,500.
31,590.
Just for the sake of input, if you were to, we've had 60 and 75 both thrown out there. 60% takes it to 33,600.
The motion on the floor is to consider it, but without the percentage, correct?
So the ask for discussion is for someone during the discussion to share a number, and once everyone has discussed that, we'll call a vote.
If we've decided to go ahead and make the recommendation to the commission to increase their salaries to 75%, starting at 75% of the county chair, then I think it should be as high as possible, 75%.
And I think the discussions we had, one of the meetings regarding this item, I think we discussed the 75%. A lot of the questions were, how did the 75% come about? And I think that's, when we looked at the salaries from the county chair and the county council, and I think that's how we set that up.
It is.
I suggest and I recommend to have the 75% including in the motion.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to add to it, depending what Tallahassee does with a lot of these, the home rule issues, assuming we still retain a lot of the home rule, if you look at the actions of the cities, LDRs, development, all those kinds of things, it's almost more encompassing at the city level than it is at the county level, because the county's only dealing with the non-incorporated areas. So if you take the 16 incorporated areas out of Volusia County and look at the responsibility level for making those kinds of decisions, it really falls heavily on the city level commissions and councils. So I would tend to think that the responsibility of the mayor and the commissioners at those levels may even be more of a responsibility in making those kinds of decisions on a continual basis than you might find at the county level. So I kind of support that higher rate for the locals, because I think they get caught in the middle on a lot of issues. If you look what happened last Tuesday night here, they got caught in the middle on a lot of issues and they got bombarded. And a lot of people don't understand how decisions were made. But the fact remains they had to make those decisions. And I think that they need some remuneration for stepping up to the plate to make those kind of decisions. Whether they're right, wrong, accepted or not accepted, the point is they're having to make them.
You know, I'm just coming from my own experience, so I apologize for running this over for like 30 minutes, but it's just my own experience that I'm coming from here, so please forgive me for that. But I remember my first commission meeting, I sat down and we had the Hatfields and the McCoys. We had, yes, I want a hotel on Flagler Avenue. No, I don't want a hotel on Flagler Avenue. And I thought they were going to do fisticuffs with each other because it was that contentious. And we were a new commission. We had 2 new people, me and Adam. Grasty was already on. And we had to put up with that. And we had to decide. And it turned out well. And then we went through the second hotel. And I remember Mayor Hathaway had to stop a citizen who was doing a PowerPoint to disparage me in front of a full, I think it was at the, where was it? The Brannon Center. And he had it up on the screen, and he's got all this stuff going on. When Jim finally saw what was going on, he made him stop it. I was really surprised my husband didn't go beat him up. But so we had some things that we put up with for 14,000 some. Right. And so it's just my own background and experience that I'm coming from. I don't mean to take anything away from the commission and the mayor. I think that they have a lot on their plate and they work hard. I just don't think it belongs in the charter, and that's just my point of view, that's all. So forgive me for that, but that's just my experience, and that's it. Sorry.
There are no apologies necessary. I'll speak on behalf of this committee. We're all appreciative of your service to this community for years. There are others, Khalid as well. Our duty is to let everyone share their opinion. We'll call the vote and move forward. And I'm appreciative that we're having civil dialogue about this tonight. So I'll ask if there's further discussion on the motion as far as we've passed moving it on the charter and making it a function of 75% of the mayor based on the chair of the county council or mayor of the county council. I've heard both terms up here tonight. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, call roll.
Excuse me. Member Fulslier,
Yes.
Member Eason,
Yes.
Member Palmer,
Yes.
Member Riker,
No.
Member Rashadat,
Yes.
Member Wilson,
Yes.
Member Billings,
Yes.
Chair Billings, excuse me. I will get this right.
So I'm going to ask our facilitator to keep me honest on this. We have passed a motion that this will be included in the charter, and we have passed a motion that it will be a function of the pay as it's written today with an escalator to 75% as compared to 50%. Do I have that accurate?
Yes, sir.
And just so I'm clear, the mayor would get 75% of the county council chair, and then the commission would get 75% of what the mayor gets.
You're correct.
Along with the ancillary stuff, they currently get stipends and insurance, et cetera. I think that's-
So now that we passed that, I'd just like to say, I'm not going to make any motions, but there's got to be a better way than to make these guys, to put this in the charter or to make them vote for it themselves, because, it's not fair to them to have to do that, and I don't think it belongs in the charter, although since we passed it, we'll agree to the maximum amount. I just would hope that when we give this stuff to the commission and the mayor and they look at it, we are only making recommendations. They don't have to do what we're saying.
That is correct.
And that at that point, maybe some other solution can come up, that we can figure out a way to get these guys more money without them having to vote on it themselves.
And Farley, to be honest with you, there's no other way of doing it besides either the charter or the ordinance.
What if there were a separate commission to do this? Is that possible?
When you say in a separate commission has to be like this one, has to approve by the commission, make a
Right.
recommendation, so you're going back to square one.
And so it would still have to be approved by them. I understand that, okay.
I
Yeah,
think,
there is a point, and I don't have my PC with me. I'm going to be talking later, but on another subject, but I did put together a database of the entire 16 charters for the city. And when doing that, I seem to recall one of them had a compensation commission of some type. And I don't remember whether it was compensation for the city employees or whether it was compensation for the mayor, but there was some reference to a commission of some type that would do something. So, maybe that is the thing I was looking for in the middle. But it's still, again, correct me if I'm wrong, city attorney, they still got to come back, even if that commission approves something, it would still have to come back to the commission to approve what they recommended, right?
through the charter review process?
No. If there was a separate compensation commission, for sake of argument, either appointed, elected, whatever, but it's a commission, and they're charged with a responsibility for making compensation adjustments for charter officers and council members, would that recommendation still have to come back to the commission to vote on? So ultimately, they're still voting on their own raise.
Correct, yes.
And that compensation, it's going to come through an ordinance as well. I mean, there must be some way, a policy. It's regardless of how you do it, the commission at the end of the day is going to vote on that issue.
You know, I think that's what Commissioner Riker was trying to find. She was trying to find something
I know.
that takes it out of there but doesn't stick it in the
Right.
charter. And I agree with Member Palmer. I think charters are pretty clear as to what should and shouldn't be in them. And they're organized for a specific purpose, which is process and organization. It's not organized for these kinds of things. So that was my conundrum before as to where it belongs. So I don't know what the solution is, and I'm just talking, so I'm going to shut up, but it's
If I
just
may.
not good.
I would say that, thank you all for your comments. I think we have a plausible alternative. Is it an ideal alternative? Perhaps not, but we have one I think we've all agreed and moved on. I'll yield back to our facilitator to move us to our next item for discussion
I just
tonight.
wanted to make a comment.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say that, you know, if you look at the charters across the state of Florida, you will find most of the time, not always, but there's just a generic reference in the charter that, you know, obviously the commission is going to get paid and it will be set by ordinance. You see that as the more common methodology because oftentimes the elected body doesn't like to put it in the hands of the citizens, only because, you know, they're going to see a huge number out there and they're going to say, wow, you know, those people are double dipping, whatever the concept is out there. So a lot of people, you see the majority oftentimes go for putting it in an ordinance and keeping it, the power of what is going to be paid to the elected body. They're the ones that set that term for themselves. You all were kind of waffling, you know, what's common out there. There is no solution like what you all are looking for. I don't think. If you find it, you'll be the rock stars of the state of Florida. But I mean, I think this is the conundrum. The same discussion that you have happens in all cities.
And the city council has the right to vote yes or no with what we propose. So
Correct.
we've
Correct.
given a reasonable option. So with
Right,
that said.
right. I'm just saying that, you know, your conundrum that you've had here is not unusual.
Not
It
uncommon,
happens
sure.
everywhere, so. All right. Okay. So, all right, well, we have several items that we need to pick up and clean up from some of our last discussions. If you look at the chart, the updated chart, there were two of them sent out. If you look at the updated chart, the one that's dated 5/20, on the first page, so we didn't take a formal vote. We have multiple sections where we have to clean up, removing the clerk from where she sits to putting her in as an employee underneath the city manager. The first one is there on the first page, page 1, down at the bottom, Article 4, Section 4.04, the city clerk. So at our meeting, you asked that we bring back additional information at the last meeting on how the ballot would be structured with the 3 related ballot questions concerning the city clerk. I'm going to let the city attorney address that because I know that the question was, could all those items related to the city clerk be bundled basically into one set of things to vote on versus 3 separate things? So,
Yes, you could group them, all the city clerk items could be grouped, and you could say, you know, shall the charter provisions 2.03, 4.01, 4.02, 4.04 be amended to reflect that the city clerk is an employee of the city manager, or however that language is tweaked, you can group them together because it's a single subject.
does that answer everybody's question? Everybody okay with that? All right. This says this item is pending. That's a mistake in there. So that answers the question. So everybody, I think, is good with that now, section 4.04. If we go on over to page 2, obviously, you all have revoted on that, so that will get corrected in there. On the very first item, section 2.11, compensation, we'll correct that. The next item is we were looking for clarification and functionality on what to do when we have nominations and elections. When a primary election, we have,
Hey, Susan, point of order. Did you want us to make a motion on these things with the city clerk? Because we could just make a motion and say, make a motion of the new language for section 2.03, 4.04, 4.01, and 4.04, as stated. And then that cleans up all your city clerk language.
It
in all
does.
this.
It doesn't, so that chart's not, doesn't have it all. 4.02 was a reference to city clerk. So if you make your motion to revise the, related charter provisions to indicate that the city clerk reports to the city manager, or however you make that motion, I'll go through and make sure they're all caught. But there's a place in the city manager
one.
section that would also need to be changed.
Do you want to make that general motion, Judy? All sections in the charter that relate to the city clerk?
All sections of the charter that relate to the city clerk need the language changed
Correct, so that the city clerk is reporting to the city manager.
to reflect that the city clerk is reporting to the city manager.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion, one way might be that all language will align with the previous decision to have the city clerk report to the city manager. Further discussion?
I'd just like to reinforce some of the comments that Commissioner Riker made the last time. I think it gives better supervision. I don't see the need for the same position of management or recommendation such as the city manager or the city attorney does. It's more of a record-keeping function. It's more of taking care of public records inquiries and keeping track of our meetings and keeping the recorded minutes. So to me, it doesn't really fit the rationale for a charter officer position.
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Member Wilson,
Yes.
Member Rashadat,
Yes.
Member Riker,
Yes.
Member Palmer,
Yes.
Member Eason,
Yes.
Member Fulshear,
Yes.
Chair Billings.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so the next item is, we're going to come back down to, this is an item that we have discussed previously. That was, we were talking about the clarification and functionality of, is it going to be, so that you don't have to have that extra primary election? Is it going to be 50% plus one, or is the correct percentage, should it be something higher? So we need to go back and revisit that discussion as it relates to when a primary or general election is unnecessary in a tie vote.
I'll entertain a motion for discussion of modifying or keeping it to the point where we can open the floor.
I'll second.
I need a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to get the chair. I'll make a motion that we open for discussion whether or not to use the 50+1 at the primary level to decide the winner of the election.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Discussion.
I'll lead. Like Commissioner Riker, I ran for election. She won, I didn't. And I lost in the 50+1. And that was 2009, as I recall, or 8. I recall exactly when it was. And it made absolute sense to me at that time because of the way the vote was held. Now, there was arguments at the last commission meeting, some citizen comments and discussion up here on the dais, where arguments about, well, what if this happens at the primary, not as many people come out to vote as they do at a general election? And that may be true, but I think it still shows the direction the vote was going to go. If you look at the last primary election at the mayor's race, and you look at the one before that at the mayor's race, you could see clearly what was happening there. Whereas if you looked at the other races, which were much closer, you could see they didn't meet the 50+1, so they appropriately went, or there was only 2 running, they appropriately went to the general. I think it's a waste of everybody's time when you have such a demonstration of a high percentage, and it was in the 60 and 70% at the primary level, to run that race again or to continue that election to the general, for everybody, the candidates, the public, the record keepers, the supervisor of election, everybody, when in fact, in my view, the decision of the electorate had already been demonstrated. So I support that message. Even though I lost the election because of it, I support it because I think it made sense.
Others?
I support it as well. Chairman, and Susan had sent us a memorandum, and she did some research on all the other cities. And Daytona Beach Shores says plurality of the votes cast. Daytona Beach is majority of all votes cast for particular office. City of DeLand says majority of the votes cast. City of Deltona says 50% plus one. Ormond says majority of the votes cast. Port Orange says majority of the votes cast. Orange City says majority of the votes cast. DeBarry says majority of the votes cast. Edgewater says majority of the votes cast. Holly Hill, majority of the votes cast. Lake Helen, majority of the votes cast. Oak Hill, majority of the votes cast. South Daytona, majority of the votes cast. Ponce Inlet, 50% plus one. And even Pearson, majority of the votes cast. So every other city in Volusia County works it this way. We used to work it this way. I agree with Palmer. You know, it's expensive. It's time consuming. If you're running for office, here we are trying to give the commissioner and the mayor more money for the work that they do, to honor them for all the time that they put in. And if you're going to make them run through a second election for the same result as the first election, to me, that doesn't honor them. That's not right. So that's my story.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Palmer and Judy. I couldn't have said it better. Absolutely. I'd rather see these guys working for us and not having to spend the time and money to run another election that really has already been won.
Further discussion?
I agree as well.
Any other discussion?
I agree.
So, Mr. Wilson, would you consider modifying your motion we opened it for discussion to the 50 plus one, or however you would phrase it, and then we'll call a vote if we get a second?
Yes, I'll modify my motion to set the election at 50 plus one to determine the winner of a primary vote.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Now, do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Member Rushadat?
Yes.
Member Riker?
Yes.
Member Palmer?
Yes.
Member Wilson?
Yes.
Member Eason?
Yes.
Member Fulzier?
Yes.
Chair Billings?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All righty. So let's see. The next item is section 4.01, appointment and removal. Oh wait, we already took care of that because this has to do with the city clerk, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yep, so never mind. So that one is technically taken care of. The next one is also taken care of. So I think that takes care of items that have been sitting out there, so we can move forward. We should be able to move into our discussion as it relates to section 6.01, which is Article 6, Sustainability, Environmental Stewardship. So I don't know how you would like to handle this, Mr. Chair.
So I'll open the floor for discussion absent a motion.
Did I hear you correctly that you're moving to sustainability, or we still got one to do here?
Sustainability.
6.01, sustainability.
Yeah.
Well, sustainability is 6.01.
Correct.
Okay, all right. I'll open the discussion. You need a motion first, or we have discussion?
No, he said he would proceed with.
We're going to have some open discussion because we haven't framed anything for this topic as of yet, so.
Okay, let me lead off, because this is one that I had some interest in. As I mentioned earlier, I went through all the 16 charters in Volusia County, and I put them into, put them into a database so that they could be manipulated to find out answers to questions. In doing that, I organized it so that you could see how each one was organized and then how each one of them compared to the organization of the other ones. I also took the model city charter, the pamphlet that we got handed out, and I took out all the verbiage and just put the outline of what they call a model city charter. So you could see the chapters and the subsections and so forth, which is but all the commentary, I took all that out and did that. Then when I ran this, the problem is the charters have different terms for their chapters, so you don't find exact matches as you look through it. And then it was further complicated by their organizational structure, because some use a Roman numeral to a decimal, and some just used numbers, and some just used alphabet. So trying to organize this in a way. So what I did was I went back and I created what I called categories. So a category might be personnel administration. And I grouped or assigned to these charters and these chapters and these subsections exactly, did that one talk about personnel administration, even though they might have called it something else? So I ended up with a printout, and I'm going to have the clerk distribute those to you that come from that database. And then I have a copy of the New Smyrna Beach Section 6, which is right out of their charter, so you can see how that combines. And the premise that I would like us to look at, and we can have a discussion tonight, but I really think you need to kind of look at these documentation and take your own research and take a look at it, and then you could come back and have a more intelligent conversation about it. But my premise is I don't think this belongs in the charter. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the items that are in that section are really LDR sections. Mm-hmm. They belong in LDRs. Some of those, because you put them in a charter, and we've talked about that a little while ago, about how you tie somebody's hands by putting something in the charter. An example of that is in one of the subsections in sustainability, it talks about historic preservation, and it talks about the city continuing to try to encourage people to form local historic districts. While the current revision to Chapter 50, that's been talked about for a couple of years and which is going to end up being voted on at some point later on, actually contradicts that in terms of it. And it contradicts it because the state's guidelines for certified local governments has changed. So we have a section that's worded in the charter that's really conflicting with both the intent and the wording of the other documents, which is the current thought process. And without getting into a whole bunch of Chapter 50 here, in essence, what's happened is before people were thinking you took one of our historic districts and you had a vote of the people who were in it, and you created a local district from that historic district, and that's the thing you had to manipulate, the historic district, whereas the current guidelines and the current CLG stuff that comes from the state would allow an individual home to become a local historic district. So the whole vote process and the encouragement by the charter of the city is really not worded appropriately against it, and it kind of conflicts, whereas we have an ordinance that covers that. You don't need it in the charter. The same thing applies to some of the wording that talks about the sustainability, and it's worded more like a goal and maybe something you'd find in a preamble as opposed to a process or an organizational structure that you find in chapters of a charter. So I would ask that you take with my hand out. I didn't try to influence in any way. I did my best to I've cleaned it several times to come back and adjust those categories to try to give the best view. And I think it would help you if you looked at that and then looked at the model charter and then looked at that section and then come back. We have a much more intelligent, unemotional kind of conversation about it.
Other open comments?
Absolutely. Back in 2000, this group got together, this charter group got together.
2020.
2020, sorry. And they saw a gaping wound, basically, in the Constitution for the city of New Smyrna Beach, which was a discussion of the one big thing that everybody that lives here talks about and cares about: our natural environment, our lifestyle, development issues. These are the things that that everyone in this city, all the people that live here, care about the most. It was clearly something that should have been added to this charter, clearly. And I mean, I'm a huge champion of the concept of everyone looking at this as the Constitution of the city of New Smyrna Beach. We live in an amazing place, and it should be something to be championed, and it should certainly be something that should be included in the city charter.
Any other discussion?
Well, I sent back some language, and mine was, I just wanted more trees. And I was talking earlier about a tree mitigation fund and, you know, not coming in on State Road 44 and seeing cars and fast food places, but seeing trees, and then you'd know that there was a sign and you could go and find that, whatever you were looking for, like Hilton had. And just to have more of that. So mine was kind of rudimentary, really, my comments. And then as it regarded the historic preservation, I just made the language softer so that it didn't like say you have to do this or we will do this, but more like it's possible or you should encourage, or, you know, where the owners are in favor, that kind of a thing. So mine was just a few language tweaks with regard to it. But I'd be interested in seeing what you've done, Palmer, because I've seen your databases and how you do those things is amazing. So I'd be interested in seeing what you have prepared.
Any other discussion? Okay. So my request is that we're ill-prepared to make any decision on this tonight. So I would ask each committee member to submit to staff his or her recommendations for language in this, anywhere from delete to anything you'd like to see changed or added. And then I would ask that be put on the grid for our next meeting. We'll walk through that like we have prior discussion items and make an informed decision once everyone has a chance. If you don't submit your input, then you're willing to live with what others submit, and we'll go with that. As of now, we've got a blank sheet, and I think we need time to read and understand what others feel about it, and then have an informed vote at our next meeting.
Let me make sure I understand. So we are going to either make deletions or additions? Is that correct?
Each person should feel liberated to make his or her suggestion however you feel best, from delete the whole section, to edit anything in the section, to add anything new that you'd like to see included in the section. So it's all inclusive.
And I will add, I do have comments from several of the members that aren't here that they asked if this discussion happened, be read out for them tonight. So some of them, those that aren't here, have already submitted some of those kind of comments.
Well, you know, I'd just like to reiterate, and obviously I care about this particular part of it a lot, so I'm going to talk a lot about it. And this particular section of the city charter, for this area, for this city especially, and also considering what happened since 2020 when this was written, considering the increased level of storms and what's happening with sea level rise over time, climate change, et cetera, whether it's a natural occurrence or whether we've caused it as humans, you know, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's happening. These things must be addressed, and not necessarily just as ordinances. They need to be considered and included as part of the Constitution of our city. We are a coastal city that is in direct bullseye for future giant storms that are going to happen here. This has to be directly addressed.
So at this time, I'll accept a motion to table this until our next meeting with the task of every committee member that's interested in submitting their input for this section.
I'll make that motion, and I would add to that that the clerk has the material, and she's going to hand it out before we leave, so everybody get a copy.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Member Wilson,
Yes?
Member Rashadat,
Yes.
Member Riker,
Yes.
Member Palmer,
Yes.
Member Eason,
Yes.
I'm so sorry. Member Fulzier,
Fuchsia, yes.
Fugele. Okay. Chair Billings.
Yes. Back to you.
Yes, may I just ask one thing? For those of you that want to submit comments, if you could have those turned in by close of business Friday of this week, that will give us time to pull them together, and if there's any questions that we need to look up answers for, we'll have time before the packet has to go out next week for your next meeting. So close of business Friday into the city clerk, please.
Any committee member have a barrier to submitting it by Friday?
No. I would ask that whatever your comments from the people who weren't here tonight, do we want to wait to get them from them there, or should we have them now?
Wait for the next meeting.
Well, I'll just include them in the grid that we've discussed putting together.
I think we'll include everything in the packet, and everyone can distill it at the same time, and we'll discuss it at our next meeting. Hand it back to you for our next item.
Okay, so the next item is the next section. Oops, I've lost my paper. Did you? Oh, I did.
Historic preservation.
Yeah, historic preservation. We have some other ancillary items that will come back because those two have been circling for quite some time.
That's still part of Article 6, sustainability. So I think the whole article, you guys have continued to the next meeting.
So if the committee is okay with that, we'll take both the environmental stewardship and historic preservation, submit input, same rules apply, edit, add, or delete by Friday, and we'll have an informed discussion at our next meeting.
If I could ask, I think, correct me, Farley, if I'm wrong here, but I think there's 3 sections in that sustainability.
There's actually 4.
4? Okay, yeah.
The
Okay, so
environmental
I would,
The sustainability sections are environmental stewardship, land development and zoning, historic preservation, and sale or lease of public lands.
yeah. So I would suggest for comprehensiveness, and my concerns were not with all 4, but at least we take a look at all 4 and see if there's anything that somebody wants to change it.
I would accept for our next meeting, any input on this entire section from any committee member will be fair game for discussion.
So all of section 6?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So we have a few other cleanup items.
Yes.
Start sweeping.
Start sweeping. All right. So I have a few questions here from some of the members that are not present, that if we got to this point, they would like to have seen brought up. So some of them should go quickly, some of them you may want some additional discussion on. So hold on, let me see which ones we've got here. That one y'all have addressed. I'm sorry, what? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, that was, okay, those have been handled. So this one, section 1.05 annexation. The question is, this is in A4. One statement in this clause states that petitions are submitted to the supervisor of elections, who will certify that the petitioners are qualified in all respects under this act. The question on this topic may be able to be answered by Sharon without the need for adding it to the agenda. I would like verification that the SOE not only verifies that the petitioners are qualified electors, but they are also freeholders as required. Based on my knowledge of the SOE data, that is not readily available to them and not something that would be ordinarily checked by them. I believe this data resides with the property appraiser's office, where the owner of property is available. I would like to get clarification on what the SOE actually does and add it as an item to our agenda if appropriate, because of the verbiage needs tweaking. I'm going to defer to you, Madam.
Right, so the annexation, the people who vote on that are actual, the owners of the property in the proposed area, which is a freeholder, so they have to check that in order to determine who actually gets a ballot. When you annex a piece of land and you're looking for the percentage who approve, it's the homeowners.
They petition for it, correct?
There's a petition process.
Correct.
So the solution might be that in addition to supervisor of election, that the property appraiser certified that they're landowner.
You want to add that requirement in? I mean, it has to be, like the property appraiser has to, because that's who the ballots go to.
Right.
So first you check, are they a homeowner? That list check first. The second list, are they qualified electors?
So it sounds like wording to me, that if it's already going to the property appraiser, he's just not mentioned in this section.
That's my interpretation.
Yeah, correct. So, and Khalid, I don't know if you can speak to this historically, but since I've been here, nobody has availed themselves of this. There are provisions in state law regarding annexation, but I don't know if Khalid has experience going back.
No, nobody has that I recall.
So the specific ask from the committee member was what again?
They just wanted more clarification to see if the verbiage, I think, was clear enough to everybody. I think based on what the city attorney has said, it is clear enough. It does say what it needs to say in that section.
I think they're questioning the process, I'm assuming.
But the
Yeah,
process
the
is
way
what
I read
is.
it, they wanted to be sure that somebody was checking to make sure that they're actual freeholders, which means homeowners.
So I think the question is answered. I think it is as it needs to be. It does reflect that they are.
They have to be.
So for open discussion, is everyone clear that it's got sufficient language? Okay. So I think we've answered that, yes.
Yes. Okay. All right, the next section is section 3.08, pernicious political activities. Again, I believe this statement to be about city employees using their city title to openly support one candidate over another. The thing that concerns this person is that it does not seem to apply to the mayor or commissioners. I believe it should apply to them as well, and would like to discuss with the other committee members. If it is covered somewhere else in the document, please let me know. So that is the question. Section 3.08, pernicious political activities, item E.
Item E.
Item E. So this is about city employees using their city title to openly support one candidate over another. The concern is that it does apply to city employees. They can't do that, but it doesn't seem to apply to the mayor or the commissioners.
Is the mayor and the commissioner considered an employee of the city?
No.
Well, they're not charter thing, because the city manager's an employee of the city, and he's a charter officer, so I guess the terminology of what their status is, they get a paycheck from the city.
So if this commission is on board with making it crystal clear that it also applies to sitting commissioners, at the very end of that section, there's a piece you could just delete to make it clear that it applies to everybody. But I'm looking now to verify, but I have a feeling that language may have come from the model city charter. So I'm pulling that now, but you all could discuss that.
So you're talking about F? Is that what you're
I believe the question was they wanted to make it clear that it applies to sitting commissioners as well.
Correct.
And that would be a discussion for you all.
So a question I would have, and Ms. Riker, I'll ask you, it's not uncommon during election time to hear of other elected officials endorsing candidates. So why would we limit a mayor or a city council member from endorsing a candidate?
Are you saying you should let them do it?
According to the language as it's written, they're excluded, so they can endorse someone, which, when I think of it, elected officials often endorse other candidates, so why would we not afford that same opportunity to our mayor and council members?
I would tend to agree. I mean, I've seen that done, and you're correct.
Section E is kind of confusing because it says it shall be unlawful for any person employed in the executive branch of the city government. Wouldn't that be the commission on the executive
Well,
branch?
there's also, if you keep reading, it says it excludes the mayor and the
Yeah.
commission.
Right,
Yeah.
then the last sentence says, for the purpose of the section, term officer or employee shall not be construed. So that's what I was saying.
Right.
It's-
So I think the question that was asked is, should the mayor and other elected members be included? And I think that would be not in keeping with what we see in other arms and areas of government.
Yeah. If I may jump in here, I think out of courtesy, I don't think a commissioner or a mayor should support a running candidate against a current commissioner. Out of courtesy, I think, because it's part of the team. Now, if there is an open seat that two new people coming in and then they want to support one of them, I think it's fine. But if one of the running is a current commissioner or a mayor, I think out of courtesy that they shouldn't do that. That's just my opinion.
But when you say, Khalid, when you say courtesy, do you mean just their personal courtesy, or that we should put it in here that they can't do that?
I think it should be in here. If need to make any changes, it should be in here.
Okay.
I mean, to me, they shouldn't be, as a commissioner or mayor, they shouldn't be out there and promoting any candidate, because at the end of the day, they're gonna be working with one of them. So, that's just.
Well, let me jump in here. Both, I know it's nonpartisan elections, okay? But the reality is you have two political parties out there that have committees. And those political parties will endorse people in their party for candidates. So the Republican Executive Committee is not going to endorse a nonpartisan person that they know to be a Democrat. It's just not going to happen. That's a reality. So I think when you're putting this in here, and these folks are running for election as opposed to being appointed, like Khalid was as a city manager, that we're getting into the politics as opposed to management of the city. And I think that's the difference. And the same argument would be, if you look at the federal level, it's against federal law for a federal employee to go out and campaign and actively do that in a political election. But it's not against the law for Congress or the president or the vice president, people who run for election at the national level. So I think we're digging a hole that maybe we don't need to get involved in.
It just seems to me that, sticking to the issues, the inference would be, okay, well, obviously, if this person believes in the same issue I do, then, then by inference, I'm going to, support them, but not by naming them personally. Stick to the issues, and it's obvious, right?
Well, yeah, and I think I think that happens all the time, that three candidates might be running, and two of them have the same viewpoint, and the third one doesn't. So you're going to find that the other two saying complementary things that have to do with the two that are running. So I don't know it's necessary. I don't know what we're accomplishing by it. I guess that's my question.
It currently excludes them, and I'll share some context for my thinking. My thinking is that regardless if someone is in a seat or running for a vacant seat, that our elected officials have chosen to lead our community, so they should not have their rights removed to endorse anyone that they would want to. It's up to the voters to decide whether or not to listen to a mayor or a city council member. And it's not uncommon in other, to see a governor or someone endorse someone for a seat that's currently occupied by someone else. So I think our elected officials should be afforded those same rights. We can discuss it further, or we can take a motion to leave it as it is where they're excluded, or to include them. But I think I needed to share my point of view that they should enjoy the same rights as other elected officials.
I'll make a motion to leave it as currently written, with no changes.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Now, any other further discussion?
Did you mean to just leave it alone as it is? Don't change it?
Right, that
Just leave it
they're
go.
excluded from it.
Don't exclude them. So take that last little sentence out. Is that what you're saying?
No, we leave it in. They will be excluded.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
We-
leave it.
We're
Leave it.
making no changes in that the mayor and the city council are excluded from the language as written for city employees.
And to Khaled's point, it just wasn't done when we were in office. I mean, especially like you said, Khaled, when you have a team that you're working with and some new person is trying to come in, we would never speak against somebody that was currently seated in favor of someone else. And if there were two people running for a seat that was open, we might say to someone, Farley, I think maybe you should think about this guy. He's a really good guy. Why don't you have an appointment with him? But certainly not to go out and campaign, or we just wouldn't. Maybe they do that now. I don't know. But we didn't do it at that time.
I think it describes civility and honor.
Right.
And people who run for office should have those, but I think we should not exclude them because we don't see other elected officials excluded in their right to do that.
Correct. I was just giving my opinion and my background.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Member Rashadat?
Yes.
Member Riker?
Yes.
Member Eisen?
Yes.
Member Wilson?
Yes.
Member Fuzier?
Yes.
Oh, my God, I'm so sorry.
Kojale.
Member Palmer?
Yes.
Chair Billings?
Yes.
All right.
We have any other questions from those?
Oh, yes.
Let's take about one more question in the interest of time. I see we have a number of folks here tonight for public comments. I want to be mindful of everyone's time up here, so let's take one more question and table the rest until our next meeting.
All right. All right, section .03 in the charter. So if you look at 7.03, it's the charter review. It says there shall be a periodic review of this charter by a charter review advisory committee appointed by the city commission in 2026 and every 10 years thereafter. Each zone in the city shall have representation on the committee. What the person is recommending here is, I believe we should consider restating it to call out the fact that the commission has the right to call for a charter review when they like. Consider adding, in quotes, or as requested by the commission to the end of the first sentence. So right now, the charter specifically says every 10 years. They're asking it to give you basically more leeway to call it whenever you would want one,
Okay, so
or as requested, 10 years or as requested. So it's going to happen every 10 years, or it could happen sooner if it's requested sooner.
I would like to open the floor to discussion to say, to simply edit that to say at least every 10 years, so then they have the discretion as to have it as often as they like. That's open discussion. I'm not making that motion.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. The previous comments from some of the assistant city attorneys that were here pointed out the fact that the city commission could call for a charter review at any time they wanted. I think the intent was that the 2020 thing made some significant changes, and they wanted to do a little quicker review than the 10-year period. And I think that the 10-year period puts a stopgap and says, you must do it every 10 years or at their will. So I tend to agree with that position.
Further discussion before I'll ask for a motion on it.
I've thought about this a lot, actually. I think it should be every 5 years. Anybody else agree with me on that? That there should be more frequent charter reviews than 10 years? What do you think, Palmer?
I don't object to that. I think
Right.
that makes sense, and I think that would also bring to point the issue that I'm making, that sometimes we put things in charters that shouldn't be in charters, and would enable us to get it out faster.
I like the idea, the concept that we're thinking about these broad issues and we're bringing them to the public that people can see and listen to and talk about and discuss, that are things that are discussing the framework, the way people feel and think and work within the city, and also expressing the way that the citizens feel. So the more we do that, rather than wallow in the minutia of little tiny ordinances here and there and not look at the big picture. I like looking at the big picture, and I think that's an important thing. So I would move to, we're in the middle of a discussion motion, I understand, but I think that it would be worthwhile talking more about this and making the charter review occur every 5 years instead of 10.
I'll accept a motion if you want to word it as every 5 years or at least every 5 years, because then they have the discretion to call it when they like it.
Why would the commission call for a charter review?
Well, what if something you enact out of this group and the elected body approves it, and then you figure out it doesn't work?
Yeah.
You're going to have to wait 5 years to fix it, or you're going to have to wait 10, depending on which way you look at it right now. So that gives them discretion if it's at least.
I make a motion that the charter review board should review the city charter at least every 5 years.
So we have a motion to change the language from every 10 years to at least every 5 years, which gives, do we have a second?
I'm going to second for discussion. And Mark, the only problem with that 5-year thing is you have your elections every 4 years. So you're always going to be in the middle of a special election if it's every 5 years. Whereas if we choose the language that you said, at least every 10 years, that leaves it wide open for them to do it 1 year or 3 years or whenever they want.
So we have a motion on the floor for at least every 5 years. We have a second for discussion. I'll open it up for further discussion.
Yeah, I understand what Commissioner Palmer's his viewpoint on it, and it makes some sense. But I think we're again restricting, and we may not need it every 5 years. I kind of like the idea that you say every 10 years, or at the commission's discretion, so that if something shows up and it doesn't work and it's 3 years down the pike, you don't have to wait for 2. And I think if you make it every 5 years or at their discussion, then we're going to get in that wind up with, oh, well, it's 3 years, let's have one, but now it's 5 years, let's do another one. And I think that may be too soon.
I liked it earlier, 10 years or as needed. That way, if we need to do it in year 3 or year 6, then we can accomplish that goal.
Well, I like his at least wording.
Just the reality of the situation is, as needed, is the commission can always take it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So would you consider amending your, consider amending your, well, we either have to vote on 5 years or you have to amend your motion to say
I'll amend my motion
to
to
at least every 10 years.
at least every 10 years. That's fine.
And who seconded?
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Member Wilson,
Yes?
Member Rashadat,
Yes.
Member Riker,
Yes.
Member Palmer,
Yes.
Member Eisen,
Yes.
Member Fulgier,
Yes.
Member Chair Billings.
Yes. In the interest of time, I think that will conclude our discussion points for this evening, and I think we need to move in at this point in time to public comments. Each member of the community is invited up to have 3 minutes to share his or her point of view. Please state your name and your address. Thank you.
Cindy Sneezak, 512 Yukon. Thank you for some of your remarks this evening, Ms. Riker. You discussed the salaries, but it's very difficult to follow along with you when there are not details, such as when the commission has a meeting. None of the information that you get is apparently included in a packet. So, for example, there seem to be some calculations, correct me if I'm wrong, about what does 60% look like, what does 75% look like, but that wasn't in your packet. So because you're not using a whiteboard process and you're not displaying the things that you're talking about, it becomes confusing to follow you. So the only question I have on salaries is, when did we start paying salaries? And in what year did we start giving a 7,000 plus stipend for people to opt out of the insurance? That would have been important to know, because whatever you've put down as a salary amount, it gets sweetened by the stipend, and that is at least $7,000. And what's the dollar value of anything else that is offered to the commission? That didn't come up in this conversation. There are some topics, though, that did come up that I have a point of view on, and they're based in things that have actually happened. So the pernicious activity, which is a horrible sounding phrase, but I urge you to reconsider striking that last sentence. And here's why. There has been electioneering by a former mayor from this dais endorsing someone running in the campaign. That should never happen. So it's fine and well to think that people will use their discretion and be polite and not do things that are really kind of stupid, but the former mayor did that. So striking that sentence, you know, all politics are local. This board is local politics. This is small town politics. So it's more likely that there should be more controls around the process. And frankly, our commission and mayor are the people we can get to. We can't touch a congressman. We can't touch the president. So just something to keep in mind. That bothered me a little bit. Also, the last topic that you had, 10 years. But you need to add the language, in my opinion, to coincide with years divisible by 4. And I'll tell you why I think that. I spoke to someone on the former Charter Commission in 2020, and I will get the document from them, but there was a reason they suggested 2026. So, that's not what I meant to say. You talked about turnout at elections, that was it. And there was some good numbers thrown around. But at a presidential election, so a year divisible by 4, you are guaranteed to get the best participation from the citizenry. So we should be doing that. So I'm not sure that you really want to push this thing to 2026 because even if they do it earlier, it should always coincide, taking effect, always coincide with a year divisible by 4. Otherwise, you're not ever going to get maximum participation. And that runs counter, I think, to the intent of the charter. There's 2 other topics that I think require more voting power than they get. There's selling and leasing of city land adjoining a named body of water. I suggest that that should be a unanimous vote. Then you don't end up with things like the Anglers Club, which has a lifetime lease on that building for what, $1 a year, $100 a year? That's prime city waterfront property. And the other is the sale and lease of all other city land should require a super majority. Quickly now, because I'm running out of time, I'm interested in what your provision will be for a minority report when you put all your recommendations together. I think you need a repository of materials if you're not going to put everything on the agenda packet. Because we have no way of looking up people reference minutes from the last charter review. Where would we find that unless you have a repository like the parking board?
Thank you,
Had a
ma'am. Thank you.
repository.
Good evening. My name's Leslie Sachs. I live at 816 East 8th Avenue. Thank you for volunteering too, by the way. I would just, a few things, and I was trying to get here earlier, but I have a broken foot, so I couldn't make it. But the 50+1, I have no problem with that because it saves, saves money. It's unnecessary ballot language, et cetera. So why are we having a special election for this? It should be 2026, which was the spirit of the previous charter review board. It's just my feeling on that. And I have old ballots with me, which I copied from the County of Volusia Supervisor of Elections website. Shows every other city that did a charter review broke down every single question. So everyone knew, the voter knew what they were voting for. New Smyrna Beach, we just say yes or no. No one knows who they're voting for. We had over 1,500 undervotes. 13,000 voted for it, and I'm just rounding it, and 5,500 voted against. That's pretty bad. So we really need to spell out the language on the ballot like DeLand did, like DeBerry did, Edgewater did, a lot of the cities did. Like, should there be term limits? I think so. So does DeBerry. So that's another thing that if this goes to the ballot, no more just yes and no. Don't disenfranchise the voter. And the mayor's term shouldn't be lengthened because the resident needs the power to change the majority or potentially change it every 2 years. Plus, you could get a majority of new people that have never been in politics, and that's not fair on the two experienced people in the staggered terms. Also, this way you can make sure the citizen gets the representation they want. Without a mayor running every 2 years, every other election will be severely undervoted because voters won't show up because they still don't know that they can vote for all the other zones. And lastly, raises should be by referendum or just give everyone 5%. They get a pension, they get the insurance, they get that special stipend check, which was a third of the salary. They get a 3% COLA. It's just too big of a jump. You were discussing it. I looked at the COLA,
Thank you, ma'am.
Page 56,000. It would make Fred's salary go up to 42 and change. That's a big jump. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wrote down mine so I don't just ramble on. And I'm old, and I'm sitting in these hard chairs. So, my name is Deborah Dugas, 200 North Pine Street, New Smyrna Beach. I would like to thank each member of this committee for volunteering to work on the charter review. I have been where you are, serving on a board whose mission was for the betterment of our city. I served on the Beachside Task Force several years back. I've actively followed city government here for about the last 15 years, attending many meetings, voicing my concerns, and most importantly, keeping up with what is happening in the city. I find that most residents only jump on the bandwagon when it's generally too late to make a difference by becoming educated or involved. Again, I thank you all. I came to speak tonight because I watched the meetings from home because it's just too unbearable for me to sit here, and I thought public participation was at the beginnings. But anyway, I've watched all the meetings thus far. The May 6th meeting I watched twice. I I was losing faith in this committee until that last meeting because it appeared to me to be tasked with a hurry up and make changes. We don't need a process nor questions to understand the charter changes. This is the impression I got from watching. At the last meeting, finally, discussion among the committee members was flowing, questions were asked, and clarifications were given. It didn't feel rushed. I learned a lot and felt that this is the process needed. I think the public needs to know, as I believe Leslie said, you know, we got to know what we're voting for. Most people don't understand. They don't even know what a charter is. They don't know what this review is about. So I thought that was super. But then at the end of the meeting, when the issue of extending the length of the meeting so the committee's job would be finished sooner than scheduled in time to get a special election in November, I felt that Mr. Hathaway verbally attacked Mr. Roker, accusing him of saying the committee was corrupt and asking why did he agree to serve on the committee if he wasn't agreeable to what was being done. I thought it was agreeable to meet through the month of August for this committee. In watching the meetings, I feel that Mr. Roker has basically asked for clarification of and transparency on all items so that the public gets the true picture of what is happening here. Not a one-sided presentation, not an already done thing. Let people know what's going on. He never stated that he did not agree with the task. His votes will show how he feels about the individual issues. I think many citizens will appreciate the clarifications that are being made so that they have a better understanding of what the changes are and what they mean so that they can vote on them knowledgeably. Again, I thank you and I appreciate the time and effort put into this charter review, and I will continue to watch from home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Randy Herman. A few things. I would sort of build on what Ms. Dugas just said.
I'm sorry for interrupting. State your address for the record, please.
Oh, sure. 108 Esther Street, New Smyrna Beach. Randy Herman.
Thank you.
I think it was Douglas MacArthur said that if everybody in the room is thinking alike, somebody's not thinking. And I think that was a concern early on in the process, and I would agree that the last meeting there was much more active discussion and getting into the issues better, and I think today was another example of that. What is lacking, and it was promised last time by the consultant, was an actual pros and cons listing, which I think would be very important for the commissioners to see, and I thought you were going to have that for this meeting. I do think recording what the valuable pros and cons that you listed today on the items is important for the commission to be able to see, and also for citizens who haven't been part of this process. So I hope you will do that as you promised. And I think it's great to have that grid on the screen, by the way. This is being televised, and it does help make you understand what you all are grappling with, which, again, I compliment you. This is not an easy task. Under the discussion of the four-year term, in 306, line 123 to 124, I think it still says expires in 2 years. So if you're changing it to 4 years, that needs to be changed. Maybe you caught that. I don't know. I just happened to read that. The 10-year review, I'm glad you discussed that. I think one of the things that coming into the process that threw me was that the fact that the commission could call it earlier, and having been in the 2020 discussion, I thought it was clear that it was going to be in 2026. So I think clarifying that is really important because that did lead to some problems. I agree with the primary election change, and I do believe it should be in the presidential election cycle. I also would like you to consider putting in the charter a 5-year comp plan review. I do believe the comp plan is almost as important as the charter, and there are a lot of selective changes during the years, and I think a comp plan review would be very important because we rely on that for the day-to-day business. And last, I would just, the sustainability, and I'm glad you're coming back to it. If you were in the city commission meeting last week about the Deering Park thing, one of the things that struck me is the age divide that's currently in our community. a lot of young people came and they weren't part of the process, which I think was a problem. But really, we're saying there were concerns about the environment. And I really hope we continue to hear what they were saying.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, Crystal Saylor, 645 Ball Street. I'd also like to look at the mayor term. I really don't like it being extended to 4 years. I think it should be every 2 years. I think there's more accountability that way. In fact, even though I know there is a cost associated with an election, I'd even like to see it every 2 years for members of the city commission. The person I recently voted for, who ran on a platform of overdevelopment or being against overdevelopment, flipped 9 months later and voted in favor of overdevelopment. And so, you know, he's still got all the rest of his term. As far as the raises go, I know that I just looked this up. County Chair Brower makes $65,000 a year, and so 75% of that would be $48,750. That's plus the benefits package that is given to our commission and mayor. And so I think that raise or salary issue needs to include benefits and salary. And, you know, looking at the data that's available, I know it was, you know, not super hard to find, but I would maybe recommend, you know, going back and gathering as much data as you can about all these salaries and their packages. You know, what do they get besides just the salary, so that it is equitable. My other thought on that was finding a comparable community in budget, cost of living, and things like that. New Smyrna Beach isn't 75% of the county or the county population or the budget, although a good point was made that, you know, cities sometimes have different and or more responsibilities. The other thing that I really wanted to bring up, and it was interesting because some other people mentioned that, communication is everything. I mean, I've learned to look for stuff. There was many things I didn't know existed. I had no idea the start of the DPIC development was started through the Economic Development Task Force. So by the time I figured it out on a city commission meeting, it was sort of too late. And so I would love to see, you know, some method. I don't know if it's a charter potential, some very clear and thorough documentation style, maybe an index, a database kind of thing, some way where you can say, okay, this commission or committee has these documents, that kind of thing. I mean, it's been great. I was able to go in this afternoon and find the city charter and look at that. And I've been able to go in now and find the documents on Deering Park. But, you know, the more, you have to get the information out there. And I think if the information had been out there sooner and advertised better, you would have had the turnout earlier that was at last week's city commission meeting. Many people were not aware of that development until it was basically all the way set. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Good evening. Jess Romero, 708 South Cooper Street. I want to echo some of the comments that were made by Ms. Douglas, Ms. Debbie, Randy, as far as communication. The first meeting I came to, as you all know, I've been to every meeting so far, except for one, and it was kind of way strange in the way it happened. And I urge you to go back and review it in a video. Because a lot of times when you're on a task force, on a committee, you don't see what's happening around you. So I urge you to go back and see what happened at first meeting and second meeting too. This meeting was a lot better. But I'm still a little bit confused because the first meeting we had to ask to speak publicly, and we did. And then the second meeting, it happened at the beginning. And then last time you had a discussion whether you have it at the beginning or at the end, and you had it at the beginning. Now you have it at the end. So I'd like to know which way it's going to be. Because a lot of folks thought they were coming in to talk first, and it would help out a lot that if you speak first and you hear from us, you get an idea of what we're thinking. Not just me, but everybody else. 2 points. You already voted on the mayor 4 years. That's fine. I recommend that you put in the charter a provision that there'll be a term limits for everybody, commissioners and mayor, a maximum of 12 years. 3 terms is a long time. That way you can really cycle people, bring them in here. It could be 12 years cumulative or consecutively, either way. Number 2, right now I spoke to this at the meeting, so it's not new to anybody here. The city charter officers, the city commissioner, the city city manager, the city attorney, and the city clerk have contracts that are open-ended, which means is that if we dismiss them, if the commission decides to dismiss them, they get a hefty package. They can be here for life. Is that what we want? So I recommend that in the charter, since you already put the pay in the charter for the mayor, is to do a 3-year contract initially, followed by another 3 years, and a third 3 years for a total of 9 years, which a provision of 1 year at the end, so you have 10 years. That way you don't have a city manager for life or a city attorney for life, and it goes on and on, because you start building fiefdoms. Once you have a person in here for life for 20, 30 years, they get a lot of power, and it starts to build fiefdom in there, and you have an issue. And it's gonna cost us, the taxpayers, to get rid of them. So as a charter, I would recommend to do that. And if you are gonna do this, it should start, the 4-year cycle for the mayor should start in 2028, not in 2026. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comments?
Good evening. I'd like to remain anonymous. Regarding Article 2, Section 202 with the 2 and 4...
I'm sorry, state your name and address.
I'd prefer to remain anonymous. Thank you. So I understand the both pros and cons for for the 2 and 4 year terms. If you are going to change this to a 4-year term, I would really like to understand how you are going to ensure the accountability and responsiveness of the mayor. I think something of ensuring that they are being responsive and are not being, inflexible with some of their activities is going to be very important. In Article 4, Section 4.04, regarding the changing the rules for the primary election, just because primaries are in favor of a candidate, it does not necessarily mean that that can't turn around in the general election. Primary elections are not necessarily correlated with general elections, and there is evidence to support that. In 2024, in NSB, only about 4,700 votes were cast in the primaries, but over 19,000 votes were cast in the general election. So that could sway a decision drastically from a primary to a general election. In relation to that, Article 3, Section 3.08, Item E, relating to the mayor and commission being allowed to openly support candidates, if primary elections could result in candidates to be chosen based on a majority vote, then the mayor and commission's support could actually sway those votes. So I see there being a huge conflict of interest there that has to be really considered. In regards to removing the city clerk, there's an item here in Section 3.05 that states, when it comes to elections for mayors or commissions, that if there's less than 3 qualified nominees for office, then the city clerk shall declare the person so qualified as nominees of the general election. But now if the city clerk is under the city manager, and there will be a conflict of interest there as well. The city clerk, as stated in Article 4, Section 4.02D, Item 3, has this power over the city clerk. And I can see that being an issue with conflicts of interest, so I think you should really consider that decision as well. Beyond that, I think that's all I have to say, but thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Joe Dluback, 3321 East Laconda Circle, Venetian Bay. It seems like the commission, you guys, are avoiding the elephant in the room. The issue there is the city government, as it now stands, is ill-prepared by their own admission to support developments as viewed by the failed experiment with Venetian Bay. It now has 3 developments on its plate: Deering Park, South Village, and what used to be called Shell Point. And unless there are major changes in the way government operates or its construct, we're going to continue to have issues for all of those 3. Regarding the mayor's term, currently at 2 with proposal to 4, judging from what's happened in this room in the last 2 meetings with the city commission, any change is going to be a deal breaker for any of the voters in this city. We talked about compensation, you guys did extensively. Just an observation, having someone decide their own salaries has seemed like a little fishy. If the city clerk is not a charter member, like she was or he was before, why are they even mentioned in the charter? And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay, public comments is closed. I want to thank everyone for coming out and sharing your comments, listening to us. I also will apologize on behalf of the committee. Moving forward, I'm going to ask that we call the order, review the minutes, and then open public comments so we can hear some of these comments as we weigh in on our discussion. I want to thank each and every member of the committee tonight. I felt we had healthy dialogue. I think we had constructive dialogue. There were things we agreed on and things we didn't agree on, but we also respected each other's points of view. I want to thank the staff and everyone that's involved, our facilitator, consultant, for keeping us straight. Again, for those watching at home, thank you for tuning in. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. We stand adjourned.